The air inside Blackwood Manor had grown suffocating, thick with an unnatural stillness that pressed down on me and Emily like an invisible force. The very walls seemed to pulse, the ornate wallpaper twisting as if something unseen moved beneath it. The temperature had dropped drastically, our breaths visible in the dim candlelight flickering from the ancient chandeliers above. We had stopped running only because there was nowhere left to run. Before us, the grand hall had transformed into a shadowy cathedral. A twisted version of a wedding ceremony had been set in motion, with a spectral audience seated in rows of decayed pews. Their forms were translucent, faceless, and yet their presence was undeniable. Each figure turned their hollow gaze towards Emily, as if waiting for her to take her place at the altar where Victor stood, smiling that eerie, knowing smile. Emily's grip on my arm tightened as she whispered, "We can't let this happen. I won't be bound to him." I scanned the room desperately for an escape. The massive stained glass windows, once depicting scenes of love and union, now showed something far more grotesque. Visions of screaming brides, bound in chains, their eyes hollowed out as they were dragged into an abyss of darkness. The sight made my stomach churn. This place was no longer a mere haunted house. It was a prison for souls, and Victor was its warden. "We have to fight back," I said, my voice steady despite the terror crawling up my spine. "There has to be a way to break this." Victor stepped forward, his movements slow and deliberate. "You still believe you have a choice?" he mused, tilting his head. Foolish. The moment she stepped into Blackwood Manor, the ritual began. Every moment, every breath, every heartbeat was a step closer to this moment. Emily shook her head, defiance flashing in her eyes. "I never agreed to this." Victor chuckled, a deep and unsettling sound that resonated through the grand hall. "You accepted the invitation. You entered willingly. And most importantly," he extended his hand, and the engagement ring on Emily's finger began to glow ominously, pulsing like a heartbeat. "You said yes." A cold realization swept over Emily as she struggled to pull the ring off, but it wouldn't budge. The more she tugged, the tighter it seemed to grip her finger. Her panic deepened as she let out a small cry of frustration. I stepped in, wrapping my hands around hers, trying to help, but the ring seared my skin, burning with an unnatural heat. Victor's smile widened. "It won't come off. It is bound to her, just as she's bound to me." The ghostly congregation began to stir, their hollow eyes glowing with an eerie blue light. A soft, melodic humming filled the hall, a haunting wedding tune that grew louder with each passing second. The walls shuddered as black tendrils snaked from the floor, inching closer to us. "We can't let him complete this ritual," I hissed to Emily. "We have to find a way to break the connection." "But how?" she gasped, her fear barely contained. My mind raced. If this was a ritual, there had to be a focal point, a keystone anchoring Victor's power. My gaze darted around the room until it landed on something strange, an ancient-looking tome resting on a stone pedestal near the altar. The book's pages fluttered, as if caught in an unseen wind, glowing faintly with the same eerie light as the engagement ring. "That book," I whispered. "It has to be part of this." Before I could think twice, I lunged for it, weaving through the encroaching shadows. The moment my fingers touched the worn leather cover, an agonizing jolt surged through my body. A vision flooded my mind. Dozens of brides before Emily, all trapped in this unholy cycle, their souls drained to feed the darkness that lurked within Blackwood Manor. I saw Victor standing over them, binding them with his cursed vows, trapping them for eternity. I staggered back, gasping. The truth hit me like a freight train. This was never about love. It was about power, about Victor sustaining himself through an endless cycle of ensnared brides, feeding on their life force like a parasite. Emily reached for me, worry etched into her face. What did you see? No time, I panted. We need to destroy this book. It's his anchor. Victor's eyes darkened, his amusement vanishing. You dare interfere? The moment he spoke, the entire hall trembled. The shadows lunged for me, but Emily acted fast, grabbing one of the ceremonial candelabras and slamming it into the pedestal. The tome tumbled to the floor, its pages flaring with unnatural light. Without hesitation, I grabbed a candle from a nearby sconce and set the book ablaze. The reaction was instant. A deafening shriek erupted from Victor, his form flickering like a dying flame. The spectral guests wailed, their forms dissolving into wisps of smoke. The room trembled violently as the very foundation of the manor seemed to quake in agony. Victor's fury twisted into desperation. You do not understand. You cannot break the vow. But as the book burned, so did the bond. Emily let out a gasp as the engagement ring cracked, then shattered, the shards disintegrating into dust. A powerful force ripped through the room, sending Victor sprawling backward, his form rapidly deteriorating into shadow. The manor itself groaned, the walls splitting, the cursed energy that had kept it standing for centuries unraveling. The stained glass windows shattered, sending shards raining down. We have to get out of here, I shouted, grabbing Emily's hand. We ran as the house collapsed around us, dodging falling beams and crumbling stone. The front doors loomed ahead, bursting open as if inviting us to flee. The moment we crossed the threshold, an explosive gust of wind sent us tumbling onto the cold, wet grass outside. Then, silence. I turned, staring at the ruins of Blackwood Manor. It was gone, not just destroyed, but erased, as if it had never been there to begin with. The sky above us was clear. The oppressive darkness lifted. Emily clung to me, her body trembling. It's over, she whispered. I held her tightly, feeling the weight of everything we had just survived. But even as relief washed over me, a lingering unease crept into my thoughts, because deep in the back of my mind, I could still hear Victor's laughter